Okay. Hello everybody. Welcome to McMurray Hatchery Live. It's Tom from McMurray Hatchery. I'm Vice President. We are on location, I guess, today, and this is my house. This is my backyard. These are the chickens that you can't see that are mine, and ducks. I've got two different coops and a whole lawn full of stuff my wife doesn't want anybody to see. But I don't. We'll just kind of see how I take care of my animals, and you know what I guess I assume most kind of homesteaders do as well. So products that I use and how I do your chores. So yeah. Can't really see my animals because they're over there. That is the importance of having really good neighbors. They get a really good shade over on that side, and I live in town, so that's another thing is dealing with the town on what animals you can and cannot have. I don't have a ton of space. I have just a little over an acre. Includes the house and the road, and I've got about 60 animals, which is way too many. Including 25 ducks and about 30 chickens. That's the best part. But the afternoon shade over there is terrific, so they really like to go over there. And that's the thing, is the neighbors. I've okayed this with the neighbors. We talk constantly with our neighbors. They love that they don't have bugs and spiders and crickets. And in return, I keep them in eggs and vegetables from the garden. So it's a trade-off. You just got to make it worth everybody's while. Find what makes them happy, because it's a community effort too. So you can't, unless you live in more space than I do. But I love ducks. I love ducks and I love chickens. You can't really see them. We can look at my coops. I have two different coops. And according to the town board, they're both movable, and I had to fight that. This coop was a garden shed that was donated by my father-in-law. They didn't want it anymore, and we picked it up. We had a dump trailer, tilt bed dump trailer, so we tilted the trailer all the way up, threw a rope around it, and actually laid it down on top of it and drove it here. And basically did the same thing in reverse and dropped it off. So if anybody questions it, they are movable. My other coop, that's where I keep some of my breeding pairs. These come outside. They're out every morning. They're out every day. They're entitled to the whole yard. The other ones, I'd have a select few that I keep for breeding purposes. They come out once the breeding season is done. That's a biosecurity kind of containment thing, which is important if you're going to maintain different flocks, and especially flocks of different ages. Typically in a barn setting, you always do your youngest chicks' chores first. You don't want to bring anything from your older chicks to your number chicks, or your younger chicks. So as you're progressing through your chores, start with your youngest and go up to your oldest. You will eventually get everything. I mean, any type of disease or anything pathogen that's in the area. But you never want to pass something that an older flock has a resistance to a younger flock that has not built up resistance to it yet. How do I keep animals with while working at a hatchery? Biosecurity is a principle. Change your shoes. Have dedicated shoes. I don't do a lot of chores in the morning. I let them out of the building. I make sure they have food and water. Everything else is done at the end of the evening, or my wife does it during the day. So I'm not taking anything to work. You're wearing different clothes. You're not wearing the same clothes that you do. So you're not passing anything to, 90% of my week is just eggs, but there's 2 to 3 days where there's chicks too, which is fun. My dog Buffalo, she's a pup. This is my house. This is my backyard. This is what I get to look at. Somebody else's field, but I have the fence is my property line and my garden, swing set, play area. So that's the chicken coops. Chicken coops take up a lot of my yard. A lot of the yard is designated to chickens and ducks. See the ducks over here? I had a run built around kind of a square between the two. Now I have a garden there. I couldn't make it big enough in order for them to keep anything green in it. It was just bare dirt. When it rains, it was mud. You know, we have clay, we're every silty clay. It was a terrible mess. So took it out. I was going to make it bigger. I'm working on that. I've got a lot of projects going. But this year it turned into a garden. So the ducks help keep it weeded. Really, they keep all the bugs out of it, which is pretty terrific. They do eat my cucumbers, but
what kind of ducks do you have?
Okay, I got runner ducks this time because I have never had runners. I never thought I'd like them as much as the other ducks. I like the waddle. I like the ducks waddle, and the runners don't waddle kind of like they do. They run. They're very quick. I have black and blue runners, fawn and white runners. Yeah, that might be all the runners. I have some ruined ducks, males and females, and then white crested ducks. And there's at least 5 of each, and they're different. They're just straight run. They're males and females mixed. I like duck eggs. I don't like duck eggs as much as I like chicken eggs. Baking with them is fine. They seem like they're more elastic. They're more rubbery, I think, eating wise than a chicken egg is. The neighbor, you know, who the ducks run through their yard loves to bake. So that's, you know, one of the reasons we're able to have animals is because she wants the duck eggs. So a lot of those just go to her. We don't sell a lot because we have an extensive family. We have good neighbors that we like to keep in eggs, so we don't have a lot of extra, you know, to sell. We have sold on occasions, and they go pretty quickly with just a sign in the yard. We can move the sign now and again.
Someone wants to know about water.
Water,
and
yes.
A pond.
I'm building a pond. My wife will tell you it's moving slow. So the water. This is my watering system currently. It's basically 2 Tupperware containers, and I fill that up every morning. And so between those two, the ducks like to bathe, not just to drink, but so they'll bathe. They'll get a drink, and then they'll bathe, and they kind of empty a lot of the water, and then they'll only drink when they realize that there's not enough to swim in. So we fill those up every morning, and they're really happy with that. I put the sprinkler out today to kind of keep them in the yard. Anytime you put the sprinkler on, they just come and sit in it. They just love the sprinkler. They don't have to have, you know, swimming water. Ducks don't. They just need drinking water. They need to be able to clear their throat when they eat. They kind of gobble quickly. They just need to wash it down, the same as people do. You know, they love swimming water though. So I'm kind of in that mess over there. There is a hole that I've been working on, but then it rained every day for a month, and then it didn't rain for a month. So I got stopped on it. We're working on it. By the end of the year, we should have a duck pond.
Should we see what you have in your coop?
Yeah, we can look at the coop. It's pretty simple. Like I said, this was a garden shed delivered from my father-in-law. Ducks don't like to fly or jump, particularly domesticated ducks. So it's a very simple step, but they need something to just make a small hop into the, you know, duck or chickens will climb, you know, or fly to roost, but ducks don't like to. So it's just I was given some, it's called chem light. It's a FRP board, a fiber reinforced plastic. It's truck trailer liner from my brother. So I've lined my chicken coops in this chem-lite, and the floor is kind of like linoleum, but thicker. It's slick, but so we definitely keep bedding on it. This bedding is 2 or 3 months old. We add fresh bedding to it, but every day this is why my wife, she's really taken to the chores now that we have ducks. So we go in every day and just kind of turn it over, break it up. And every night, I have 30 chickens and 30 ducks, and they all go in the coop. The ducks go on the floor, and the chickens kind of roost up. And it gets matted down, but it's still very dry. Chickens or ducks are wet. Their manure is wet. They're kind of wet animals. But by keeping them outside all day, and at dusk they come in and they go in, and they're just ready for bed. And actually, it stayed extremely dry. We added some bedding to it, but it's really simple to maintain. I mean, it's 2-month-old bedding, and it's not even matted down at all.
What kind of bedding do you use?
I like, it's a large flake bedding. A lot of people do it like a horse stall kind of bedding. It's just shaved pine chips. I like the large flake better than the small or the medium flake. I think it holds up longer. The small flake is like sawdust, and it will absorb more, but it compacts more too. This is still pretty light, pretty fluffy. You can still see some pieces in it. There's no buildup. It doesn't. We turn it over once a day. It takes a couple of minutes. Right now, my chickens and ducks are 17 and 15 weeks old, and so we've had 1 egg so far out of these. Out of my other ones, they've been laying for a while, but I don't think there's an egg. This is a 10-hole nest. It actually provides some roosting space as long as I have boards across the top. But they like to be, chickens want to roost. They want to be up tall. You need to give them enough space. The book says a foot per bird. Right now our birds are a little bit smaller, so they make their own room.
Yeah.
If they're on the floor, you need to add a little more roosting space. It's not too hard. Throw a board up. Our stuff is it's more functional than pretty.
You have a coop door.
I have a coop door. Yep. Yeah. Right now, I'm not currently using it. It does. I used it for a number of years, and it worked really good. With these particular set of animals, I have not trained them. When I had my run over here, it was very easy, because they would come out and they were confined to an area and they would come back. They've been trained to use the front door, which makes it a little bit harder. I don't think that I can train them to use the coop door when they're not confined to a run. They're not going to want to go in the little door when they can go in the big door, which, we're home. and that's part of having a good neighbor is they, if we're gone for a weekend, they can come over and just open the door, close the door. We have food and water available for the times or for the whole weekends. It's just a matter of closing the door and opening the door. So not terribly strenuous. Watch your head. This coop is about 8 by 8. That's 64 square feet. If you think you have 60 animals in there, it's ridiculously small according to the book, which says 2 square foot per animal. But they are only in there at night. They go in at dark, at dusk. The chickens roost up high, the ducks roost on the floor. They have plenty of space. There's some of my chickens.
There's a couple. Now, what feeder is this?
That is it's a 60-inch range trough feeder. I really like that because of the large number of animals we have. I put it out. We put about a half a 5-gallon bucket of feed a day. I get bulk feed. That's kind of the benefit of owning your own hatchery. We buy in bulk. If I had to buy bag feed, it's a lot more expensive. It's about a quarter of the cost to buy in bulk. So I'd fill up a garbage can or feed can and I feed them every day. I have a range feeder here. This is the extreme yellow range feeder. I've had this feeder for probably 5 years and it works. I mean, there's no deterioration except for being dirty because it's out year round basically. If we're gonna be gone, I can fill this up. This holds 50 pounds of feed. So that's about 3 days worth of feed for our animals if we're gonna be gone. I don't fill it typically unless we're gonna be gone. So they use that. I move the feeders, I move the waterers every day. High traffic areas, because they spill a lot. They'll scratch it up next to it. So it's a pretty simple thing. I just pick it up and I move it. Keeps the lawn green. I move them all over the yard. Keeps the lawn watered in a drought because that's where I move the water. There's a lot of water on the ground too. I froze.
Are we back?
Robotics. Okay, we're back. Doing the robot there.
Because we're in the country.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're kind of small town, middle of Iowa. That's my one coop. That's, like I said, it doesn't take a lot of time. I let them out in the morning. They have feed and water. Pick up eggs so we can have breakfast.
Should we go see where the chickens are?
We could go we go looking for the chickens. Hear them. My neighbor has bees, and we'll trade honey. I love their honey. So they've had pretty good luck with that. The chickens are in a place that you're not allowed to see the house. That's my junk. So they like to roost on stuff. I don't know where the ducks went. Oh, they're under the tree. There's 30 ducks in this tiny little tree.
Should we go over there?
We can go over there.
There's one chicken.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
Is it shady in the bush?
Chickens are extremely intelligent creatures. They have the ability to process 2 completely separate visual conceptions. Their eyes are on the side of their head, and they use each side of the brain. So the left eye connects to the right side of their brain, and the right eye connects to the left side of the brain. So they are able to forage for feed and watch for predators at the same time. People can't do that. Your brain is not wired in order to make separate decisions at the same time. So anyone who thinks chickens are dumb, you're wrong. They're extremely intelligent. The ducks are running because they don't really like people. The chickens like people. They will come up, sit on your lap. I did not imprint correctly on the ducks. That's all right.
Close. They're over.
They like that hydrangea. And I would too. It's shady. The neighbors they don't have crickets and spiders. They did eat off their tomato plant, so I'm required to keep them in tomatoes, which isn't too hard for a retired couple. Not me, but the neighbor. But they spend, a lot of the day over here, mornings and evenings. They spend in the yard. They follow the shade. Going that way?
Yeah, go that way.
I have to go this way. Okay.
Talk about what breeds you're working on.
Okay, I have red stars, whiting blues, whiting greens, and white leghorns. I predict them because they're basically production birds. I want to keep eggs. I want pretty eggs, so that's the same reason everybody. I have a barn, so I can work on lots of different breeds when I come home. You know, those are for a specific purpose. You know, specific breeds. These are, they're fun. They're friendly. They're easy to manage.
Here they come.
I only have one rooster. I picked all hens, but I ended up with a rooster, which I'm not sad about. I think roosters are very good for a flock.
And your rooster is an Americana?
It's an Americana. Yes, it is. Green legs, pea comb. Got a beard, a little black beard on a white. It's a silver Americana.
And who's over there still?
So I think it's the whiting greens and the red stars are almost indistinguishable. That's not a. If you really need to know what bird is which, it's not ideal. You should mark them, ban them somehow. They're basically the red-white birds with yellow legs with a single comb. The Americanas are easier. They have a green slate foot, pea comb with beards. The whiting blues are a pea comb with a typically yellow feet. So they have no comb. So that's the white one is a whiting. That's a whiting blue. It's a pea comb. It has no comb and yellow feet. So it'll lay a blue egg. So I have blue eggs, green eggs, brown eggs, and white eggs. Here really shortly. So they'll lay about 16 to 18 weeks old.
Should we go around and see if we can see them?
They really like this tree. Chickens, they're not hard. Chickens have about 24 different sounds that they'll make. Some are exclusive to roosters and some are exclusive to hens. They really like this tree. This tree really likes them. They keep the bugs away from it. They scratch in the dirt. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an egg in there somewhere. Someone's hiding eggs on me. You say
What's that one?
The white one is Americana. This one is, I would guess, a red star. It's got yellow shanks. It's red and white with a single comb. It's got a brown earlobe. They're.
And how old are most chickens when they start laying?
Boy, it's very breed specific. So most 20 weeks is probably a very good average. Some are slower. Well, they'll be up to 24 weeks. A lot of it's environmental too. If you're going to raise birds in the fall, typically you won't get eggs till spring, no matter how long it's been. The red stars, the whiting blues, the whiting greens, you couldn't get eggs as early as 15 weeks. I've had one egg so far. They were 15 weeks old on Monday.
And between the ducks and the chickens, do some eat some backyard pests and others eat others? What's the benefit of keeping both?
Specifically, I don't know. Ducks are cleaner. Like chickens scratch, and they will eat. They kind of will make a mess of the yard. The ducks, they don't scratch the yard. While they'll make a mess with the water, they're typically easier on the landscape. they like kind of the same things. I think chickens are more predator-ish, more omnivore than the ducks are. I think the ducks prefer vegetables, and I feel like the chickens prefer bugs and insects. But that's just my own speculation, really.
And they eat ticks?
They'll eat ticks. Yep.
Or is that guineas?
Guineas will clear an area of ticks, but I mean it's a bug, and if the chickens see it, they will go for it. They like all bugs.
And you can mix chickens, ducks, guineas.
Yeah, there are always, ducks don't have disease problems. Basically, they don't. There's no really vaccination schedule. There's just ducks are generally healthy. That's part of the avian influenza problem. Is they don't show symptoms of avian influenza that will, kill off birds. So when you mix them, there is some crossover between certain diseases. And the ducks won't necessarily show it, but your chickens will. So that's what you really need to be kind of careful about that. My livelihood doesn't depend on my backyard flock. I'm not selling eggs is fun. It gives something for the kids to do. If you were gonna be devastated by the loss of your birds for any then don't mix them. That's because there are unintended consequences with that.
Now they free range all day. What about aerial predators?
There are aerial predators. There's hawks.
And what
What have I
kinds of
done?
predators do you have overall?
Oh, our biggest predators is possums and raccoons. This is a creek back here behind that field, and coyotes are huge, but they don't get in the coop. Like, I'm very good about closing the coop. I'm not worried about a coyote getting into the coop at night. But possums, minks, raccoons, they can get into almost anything. We've had a mink or a weasel go through, and we lost 20 birds in 2 days. We'd go out one morning and there's just their heads are missing.
Do the hawks get them occasionally?
The fox?
Hawks.
Pox? I've not had a fowl pox.
No, hawk.
Hawks. Oh, the hawks.
Sorry.
I've not ever seen it. I can't say that they haven't. I have not had a hawk take a bird that I've seen. I know what I said. I'm at work a lot. We have a lot of. They're not out in the open. They go from a concealed place to a concealed place pretty regularly. Our yard is the most open. The neighbor's yard is more concealed. It's probably why they like the neighbor's yard better than they like our yard. So you can try to dissuade from hawks. That's a benefit of having a rooster too. Is there one of the vocalizations that a rooster can make is that there are aerial predators. That's not a vocalization that a hen can make, and you'll notice that in there. Once that sound is, there are specific sounds that mean different things for chickens. And the aerial predator, they'll hunch down and try to cower and hide. If it's a terrarian predator, the ground predator, they'll stand upright and scan the horizon. That typical sound for the terrarian is a hen or rooster, but the aerial sound is only a rooster. Fun fact.
Fun fact.
Fun fact, in case you didn't know. I've got a wagon full of fence parts that I need to keep working on my fence. We will probably at some point put a top flight netting on so we can contain them so they don't eat the neighbor's tomato plants. She's really nice, but I don't want to get on her bad side either. So
What about guard geese? You have dogs, but what do you think about guard geese?
I loved having geese, and they were guard geese to the point that they would run away. And they're noisy. I had a pair of geese, a pair of Toulouse, and we don't have enough space for the geese. Somebody did complain about the geese, so we had to get rid of those.
What's the best breed for guarding?
I really liked the Toulouse because they were friendly. Because they weren't because we have small kids too, and I didn't want them to be a target or to be attacked. The best guard geese, I don't know. I don't have that much, firsthand, what in a homestead kind of situation, what would be the best for territory. A yellow lab.
Got one of those.
Yeah.
Now, what about turkeys? You've had turkeys here.
Yes, I had a number of turkeys. I've had all of the heritage type turkeys here in my home, and that's one that the book says don't mix your chickens and turkeys. I've had success doing it. That's one of the things. Turkeys are more susceptible to diseases than chickens are, so everything will pass down to a turkey. A lot of the vaccines that you give chickens are turkey strains. They're close enough related to build up antibodies, but not actually give the disease to.
Mm-hmm.
But then you mix turkeys in, and then you have issues. So Marek's disease is an issue with turkeys. MG with turkeys is terrible. In this area, MG is prevalent with the turkey populations. It's a big turkey area.
And what's MG for those that don't know?
Mycoplasma gala septium.
Technical name?
Yeah, it's in Latin.
How do you prevent, do you use medicated feed, or what do you do about coccidiosis and Marek's and things like that?
I've gone away from using the medicated feed. They're vaccinated for coccidiosis as a chick. I've used medicated feed and had good results. I feel like in any given situation, wintertime especially is harder because it's hard to keep your coop clean. Chickens don't want to go out. Things are more humid, they're damper. It's always building up. It's a parasite. It's a protozoa. That you will catch it eventually. And medicated feed is the smallest dosage that you can do. It's a very small preventative. Housekeeping, if you have an immaculate coop, you're cleaning twice a week, you have vent fans in, great. That's probably perfect for our kind of setup. I've treated. You just watch it. Watch your birds. Watch for signs. Watch for coughing. Watch for the bloody stools. And then it's a fairly easy treatment. It's water in 3 days, and that'll help eradicate any buildup. You'll almost always catch coccidiosis. You'll almost probably already have Marek's disease. They're just extremely prevalent. They're in everything. They're on everything. If you go buy wood from the lumber store, brand new wood, it's got Marek's on it. It's just on everything and in everything. It's just part of, it's an ongoing, it's a long term, it's how you maintain your flock. If you have healthy flocks, you'll never have an issue. Sometimes it's beyond your control too, so it's not always just a care issue, but sometimes it is too. It's hard, it's 20 below here sometimes. You can't go clean the coop out. It's frozen solid. It's not practical. So this was our chicken run. You can almost see the square. And we planted flower beds this year. And I got 10-foot tall corn. And sunflowers did really well, but they don't get enough sun either. So because they're in kind of the shade of the tree. If anybody wants cucumbers, I have just one cucumber plant, but it is ridiculously profuse with cucumbers here. So
Is that from the composting the manure?
It is, and that was their run. That was the run for a number of years. It was fallow for about a year. Nothing really grew. I mean, my grass barely grew. I tilled it really well, and we put stuff in, and it took off. It's very high, very dense nitrogen. You're gonna have to let it sit for a while. This is my other coop. I keep these birds inside while we're breeding to try to maintain a semblance of biosecurity.
What breeds do you have?
I have two breeds in here. Well, 4 breeds in here. There's only 2 that I have pairs of. I have a turkey, a black Spanish turkey that was left over from Thanksgiving. He got pardoned, and he was out for quite a while, but he took to liking the neighbor's back porch better than mine, so he got put inside. I have a black Hamburg pair, male and female, and I have a silver gray Dorking pair. And then before I had gotten these chickens, there was a random bird running through town that I got gifted as well. So this setup's a little different. I have food and water in this coop. This coop is also movable according to the city. I was bored one winter, and so we had plans to build this chicken coop. We'd bought 4x4s for the corners. It was going to be kind of a standalone coop, and the ground would never thaw. And so I started just kind of framing it up in the driveway. It's 16 foot long by 8 foot, and I built it, that's outside dimensions, so sheets of plywood would fit without cutting. So it's a little bit smaller inside. But I partitioned it, so I have kind of 2 areas, a storage area and also a brooding area if I need to brood separate from having the chicks in with my adult birds. But the ground would never thaw, so I was building it, and I ended up building the whole thing on my driveway, but I had built it on piers with the intention of moving it down and burying it on the piers. It's not level. It was a terrible plan. I ended up taking the Sawzall and cutting 8 of my posts off. They're 4 foot in the air, and I just cut them off, and it cut so perfectly that it's sitting on 8 4x4 posts, and I was just able to push it flat, and it just fell just as straight and as square it could be.
Well, someone has 3-week-old chicks. They're wanting to know, when should they go to adult food, and what do you recommend?
I mean, a lot of commercial feed is a very fine line between a starter and a grower. If you buy bulk food, it's almost the same thing. We will run a starter grower mix basically from about then until about 15 weeks old, where we'll go to a layer mix, which includes a higher calcium. I like to do what's called a pullet feed. You can't buy it at a store in a bag. It's got higher amino acids in it for the pullets. While the birds are still growing and your production birds are going into egg production, they need higher amino acids in order to digest and keep as much of the food that they eat, keep all the nutrients out of it. Quick Chick has got a high amino acid count, so you can mix Quick Chick in with your grower or layer food, and that will up your vitamin count and your amino acid count. And I think that gives chicks, while they're producing eggs, but their body is still growing, their mass is still growing, that'll kind of keeps them moving up. You'll have less problems egg binding, stuff like that, because they're not into an egg cycle. They produce eggs almost too early for their body size, so you need more nutrients, which you just can't buy. And even I can buy premixes, but it's almost just buy the pack a quick chick. It's not just for chicks, you know. It's anytime there's an extra stressful situation, whether it's a hot spell, it's a cold spell, you know, into egg production, end of egg production, molting, you know, stressful chick journey through the male. It's like Gatorade, you know. If you're working hard, you need something more than what you're getting. So it's not very glamorous, but it's dark. You might not even be able to see me. I don't run any extra lights, so they go through a natural production cycle. In the winter, I have to put a heat lamp in to keep the water going. My silver gray Dorkings, my 2 black Hamburgs, and turkey. I built my own feeder. The red feeder on the floor is their scrap bucket. These birds get all the scrap from the house or the garden. You know, when we were cutting up a cucumber, the watermelon rinds, the things like that. I made a calcium feeder out of some pipe, but they're not really in egg production, so I haven't filled it. It's pretty simple. Same thing, you know, it's a Chemlite wall. It's easy to clean. I haven't put the trim up. It's only been a few years. I made my own watering system. It's not unique or anything. It's just a 55-gallon drum. I don't like to fill it all the way up. The water will get stagnant before they get through it. So I'll just fill it gradually. Put a hose in, and there's a watering bowl that I can adjust for. If I put chicks in, I can lower it down to not newborn chicks, but you know, they grow pretty quickly, up to taller birds. Dividing the coop like this gives me space. The chickens have stuff, you know, just like your kids have stuff. Mm-hmm. I got heat lamps. I've got feeders and water is plastic. I like the galvanized the best. When everything else breaks at 20 below, you've always got your galvanized water. When the tub freezes over, you put your galvanized waters out there. You keep them in food and water. They got out today because we were playing around, but they go back in. That's where they're comfortable at. So this is my duck pond. It's just a hole.
It's pretty deep.
Yeah, it was deep, but the kids found it really fun to throw all the rocks that I dug out into it. It looks terrible right now, but it rained for a month, so it was for about 3 weeks. It was completely full of water without a liner. I have a liner that I'm going to put in it, a pump. We'll actually pump down the hill to keep the water aerated. I will build a separate pond as a filter system. So as they manure into the water, it will filter through a secondary pond. And I've started a fence for kind of curtailing the ducks into this area. But my cucumber plant grew over it, so I just kind of put that off too.
Now, someone wants to know if you raise meat birds. You have in the past, correct?
Oh yeah, I love them. I've got about two birds left in the freezer. When my mother-in-law comes, I can't tell her that it was my chicken. She prefers the chicken from the store, or just not to know about it. Yeah, we'll. Earlier this spring, we gave a seminar for the Iowa Organic Association, where we actually did a processing in my driveway. So we still have some birds from that. I prefer dual-purpose type chickens over the Cornish cross type chickens, the CXRs. If you're just straight up meat production, you know, it's tough to beat that. I like the ability to have, you know, chicken on demand if I need it. You know, it can live normally, and then all of a sudden we don't have anything to eat.
What's your favorite dual purpose breed?
Really the Red Ranger is what we have. As it's almost more of a layer than it is a meat bird. The other ones, when you say dual purpose anymore, they don't mean the same thing than they did 20 years ago.
What would you use for meat and free ranging for a while?
The Red Rangers, the Cornish, like dark Cornish, white lace red Cornish, they have a large breast. I prefer dark meat. My wife prefers a larger breast, so that's kind of I get the legs and the thighs, and she gets the breasts.
Yeah.
So, it's a nice trade-off for that. They're completely normal, natural birds. They can live as long as any bird. The CXRs, they have a lifespan. If you, like I said, it's tough to compare. Everything has been so segregated. I want meat birds, or I want chicken, or eggs. Sorry, that they're not really in the same. They've lost the qualities that they had as dual-purpose birds, originally. We're working on that. That's something I'm really excited about. Some true dual-purpose birds that are forage naturally, would lay, some eggs, decent eggs, but are also, a meat bird. That's our kids know where chicken comes from. Chicken's not just, the pet in the yard, but it is a food for the table as well. So they are pretty much pets.
And where do your chickens get grit if they're out here?
So, there's a sandbox, but we also in commercial feed is some grit already. Grit's pretty cheap too. You can buy grit. I get the bulk because I own the hatchery.
Do you just mix it in?
Yeah, you just sprinkle it. It's like salt, just kind of mix it on. They know what they're eating. They're not. They already know what they're looking for. If they're scratching something out, they don't need that. That's why you can put oyster shell, you can put grit out separately. They take it as needed. They're self-sufficient. They don't need you to decide what they should eat. If they want to eat it, they'll eat it. If they don't, then if it's available to them all the time, that's it. They just take it as needed. So
someone says on the Red Rangers regarding feeding, do you prefer to feed free choice or on a schedule like 12 hours on, 12 hours off?
I've always I don't segregate them. I just feed them. They don't need to be on a schedule. There's no reason for that. They don't grow that fast. There's not problems. I've not really had problems with the CXRs either. I think we have a very good strain where that a lot of it is move your feed to this side, move your water to this side. So they have to get up. If they don't have to get up, CXRs can be pasture birds. They absolutely can be pasture birds. But if you start them for 4 weeks inside, they're not gonna get up all of a sudden and walk around. They need to be in an environment on grass almost from the beginning too. That's harder when you're trying to brood, and you're trying to protect them. You can only really do that in the summer.
Yeah.
So I have a garden. Everybody has a garden, and a lot of chicken manure.
Well, someone wants to know what a CXR is.
It's a Cornish cross with a rock. So there's a Cornish breed and a rock breed. A CXR is a Cornish X rock, or Cornish times the rocks. So there's two genetic parentage lines. There's a Cornish line and there's a rock line. The Cornish lines are known for their large breasts. The rock lines are, kind of more of a, they're not traditionally a meat bird, but they are the statue. They're a large size bird, large size. That combination has become the standard. Every variation of that is a Cornish with a rock at some point. So Those hybrids are, third, fourth, fifth generation hybrids as well. So I mean, they're bred specifically for meat production. So
Perfect.
Like I said, we have tomato. I'd call them plants, but they're not really plants. They're kind of bushes, because I attribute that to the high nitrogen count. They take over. I have 4-foot fence panels that I just corral, and I can't keep them in. I've seen pictures of 20-foot tall tomato plants. My wife says that's my goal, is to get to the tallest tomato varieties. Potatoes, tomatoes, kale, radishes, corn. There's pumpkins, there's watermelons. We've tried it all at some point. That's if you have chickens, you need to be able to dispose of your bedding, your manure. That's it's the perfect place to do it. So I don't know. This is my home. This is my backyard. This is what I go to bed looking at, and I wake up looking at, and you let the chickens out of the coop every morning, and they come flying out, and the chickens run for the feed, the ducks run for the water, and then they swap, and
Perfect.
That's it. This is my backyard setup. So
Thanks. Well,
yeah.
Thanks for sharing with us today.
Yeah. All right.